I grew up in the Falkland Islands off the coast of Argentina in the South Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of nowhere, basically, on 110,000 acres. We had 36,000 sheep. We had many, many horses, sheepdogs, and I really grew up on the farm, working the farm and loving the land. Really, my first spiritual connection was with the land. Then the Falklands War happened. I was 13 and I woke up to trace of bullets flying past the window of the hostel where I was living, and the Argentinians invaded. Suddenly, my peaceful universe was thrown into a lot of chaos. It was a time where I saw a lot of the horrors of war. I saw people die. I was present with people who were dying. And that in itself was intense, but also profoundly impactful to be in the presence of that. And when I moved to England, I became an activist because of my experience in the war and the futility of what it felt like to me. At the same time, I was modeling. It always felt interesting to me, though, because I was being judged from my outside. And in those early years, I felt very disconnected from my inside, and I didn't really know who I was, and I didn't really know how to live excellently. And so the yoga practice was my nourishment. It was my gateway into understanding my true value, so I could stop judging myself through the eyes of others and begin to create a real relationship with myself. When I moved to the United States, I was making documentaries to continue my activism. It wasn't enough for me to be making documentaries in that way. I could begin to see my own inner violence, my own inner unconsciousness, and I understood that the way through was yoga, was the self-reflection, the self-correction, the practice of getting to know myself. And that the peace that I was seeking in the outer world had to happen within first. And that, in essence, is the teaching of yoga. Create first the peace within. Create that sense of connection and contentment. And then you will begin to create that on the outside. And so I feel when I look through my life that everything has been so perfectly orchestrated for me to be where I am right now, with all the understandings and the tools that have gone along the way. When I started in the Ashtanga world in London, I worked with a wonderful teacher called Godfrey Defro, and it was an Ashtanga-based system that he created. And it was so helpful for me to simply learn how to get in my body. Later, when I moved to the United States, it was just, yoga was on in the late 90s when I moved to Los Angeles. It was the thing. Shiva Ray and Sean Conn and Saul David Ray and Max Strom and Marty Ezrati and all of these extraordinary teachers at YogaWorks. And so I got turned on to them. And I very quickly started to practice with Chuck Miller, who was one of the co-founders of YogaWorks, and I was in his Ashtanga room, and he was working with me to help me to unwind my tight body. So Chuck Miller was a huge influence, as was his beautiful wife, Marty Ezrati, and John Belinsky in Marin. I learned so much from them about discipline, about putting my practice first. I went from a nighttime person to being an early morning person. I learned how to meet myself every day. And when Chuck and Maddie offered their last teacher training at YogaWorks, I took it. I knew that they were the people I needed to take it from. I was also practicing with Guru Singh, Kundalini Yoga. It was starting to penetrate into my consciousness. It took a while. I found Kundalini to be quite strange at the beginning. I wanted to work out. I wanted to be in my body. I wanted to sweat. I wanted to feel like I'd done something. And I'd go into a Kundalini class and I'd come out and I'd feel kind of great, but not like I did what I was thinking I would do. I kept going because I loved Guru Singh. And one day in the Kundalini class, we did a very strong core exercise and we rested a moment afterwards. And in that moment, after the intensity of the pose, the core pose that we did, something clicked in me. My mind went quiet, my energy consolidated, and I feel like that was the first time I felt who I truly was. It was like, oh, that's who I am. It's not all the masks I've been presenting to the world. Wow, there I am. And therein began my true love affair with Kundalini Yoga. And I just dug a deep well and explored all the different aspects of the practice and came to value and respect some of what may be perceived from the outside as some of the weirdness. A lot of mantra, a lot of different breath work, a lot of dynamic, strong moves designed to enliven energy, to shift your state so you don't get stuck in any emotional mental state, and designed to help you to stabilize in a new consciousness, in a new state of awareness. One of my teachers, John Belinsky, said, when life got in the way of yoga, I made yoga my life. And that struck me. And that was a turning point for me. I was like, yeah, all I want to do is talk about yogic philosophy, eat vegan food, and practice yoga. Okay, so let's do it. And I did it. It's been the most extraordinary journey. I feel so blessed that I get to teach, that I get to share what I love. The deeper I go in myself, the more I have to share with other people.